Hello lovelies and welcome to my first video for this week. And yes, I know it's Thursday, but I did explain in my last video, it's also the school holidays and things get crazy around here. Tomorrow's Good Friday and the only reason I've got some time to do some videos, I think. We had soccer for the first 3 days of this week, and yeah, school holidays, we try and keep them busy and amused so they'll stop fighting and leave us alone, I guess, don't we? But anyway, enough about that. I was feeling very bleh about my art journal and about my art in general, and everything. I wasn't liking anything I did, to the point where I did a few pages one night and I had to get up and walk away because I hated everything. And so I decided to try something very different for me. I thought if I try something different, maybe I'll find my mojo again. And it had the desired effect, it really did. I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff this night. This page actually turned into 2 pages, and yeah, it just kept going. I absolutely loved it. It's very different for me, and I think that is what did it. It really got me out of that blur bubble. Is that a word? Is that a real thing? Maybe we can make a hashtag blur bubble. I'm so doing that. I did post this page up on my Instagram, so if you'd like to have a look at the finished product, by all means, I will link my Instagram in the description below. I love Instagram. It is one of my favorite ways to link up with the arty and creative community. So check that out if you want to see some more. But yeah, so I started with 3 different Dina Wakley paints. Literally, I picked out 3 colors. I didn't want to think too much about it. So I picked out a blue, I think magenta, and then yellow. And it turns out I hadn't used the yellow before, which may be, you know, a sign. I may need to, change my color palette up a bit. So I've put them down in different areas. Now, I don't know what it is about I think I follow a certain formula. I either try to focus on leaving some white space, or I cover the whole thing, or I load it up with ink. I don't know. So getting away from that formula really, really helped, I think. So it's a lot messier than I'm used to, and I just kept going with it, and in the end, I love it. I didn't overthink it, and I think that's what it was. So I'm using some gesso and one of my new stencils. This is the Ladders stencil by Dina Wakley. I also used my Feud ball pen to just circle some of those circles in the background. While the paint was still wet, I got a baby wipe and wiped through a stencil to leave me a bit of a faint impression in the background. I didn't gesso this page at all, so it didn't work as well as this technique could, but it worked well enough for me. Basically, I'm just building up layers on my background. That's all I wanted to do. So I've got my gesso down. I'm thinking of adding some splatters. No paint goes to waste in this art room. So if I've got a little paint left on my stamp block, this is what I'm going to do with it. So yeah, nothing goes to waste. Look at me being a good girl and cleaning off my stencil. That doesn't happen very often. So yeah. So now I decided to I wanted to put something else in the background. I'm trying to build this background up. And I have this new stamp. I got a whole bunch of Art by Marlene stuff, and this was a background stamp. With big stamps like this, I don't like to use ink, archival, or any ink really, because I feel it doesn't give me a good enough impression. So I use paint. I get paint out, I get a brayer out, and I do it that way. I'm always much happier with the result. It could be my ink pad. I might need a new juicier ink pad. I don't know. I have the big giant archival one, but when I've got a big stamp and I really want a dark impression, I go for paint. And yeah, I'm really, I really love the way that looks. Especially, I have an alphabet set, a foam Tim Holtz alphabet stamp. Without fail, I always use paint on that one. So this is when I start on the other page. So because I had all this paint left over, I wasn't going to let it go to waste. Like I said, nothing goes to waste in this art room. So I slapped it down on the other page, and then I still had some paint left on my ink block. Stamp block. I use my stamp block as a palette a lot of the time. So I decided to lay that on the left-hand side, but then I still had some on my brayer. So I thought, why not? And I put it over the top of the right-hand side. Now, at first, I wasn't happy with it, but as I'm adding more of the braided paint to it, I love the look it's giving it. I love that distressed, grungy look I'm coming up with, and honestly, it made the whole page, if you ask me. I absolutely adored how this turned out, just because of a little black paint on a brayer. I love applying paint with a brayer. I love the haphazard effect it gives. So if you're looking for a new way to apply some paint, try a brayer. So now I'm just going to add some words to it. And I went through my Dina Wakley collage tissue paper and found this quote that I love and I thought was quite perfect considering the slump I'd been in lately and how rejuvenated I felt by doing this page. Now, I do use a lot of gel medium, and there is a specific reason for that. The good thing about this tissue is if you use the gel medium, it goes mostly translucent and it brings your background through. I've had a bit of hit and miss with this technique. Sometimes I find it doesn't work for me, but I have found that if I apply a lot of gel medium, it works really well. So that's what I do. I get out a palette knife and I slap down a lot on the background, and then I put more on top, and I end up with a pretty decent transparency, that's what I'm looking for. So yeah, but you do have to be careful not to rip your tissue. You will see that I do that, but you know, it just adds to the grungy look of the page. We don't care, do we? So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this page. And then because I was feeling it, I decided to continue on with the page on the left hand side. And you may ask yourself, what on earth could you possibly do with this much black paint? I asked myself the same question, but I decided to see if I could fill in all that blank with a color and have some of that black popping through. Didn't quite work as well as I had planned, but then I decided to get out another stencil and remove some of that paint again using the wet wipe technique, and it brings through a bit of that black, so I'm much happier with it that way. Art journaling is all about experimenting. I added a fair amount of water to my Dylusions paint to try and make it a little more translucent. I was going to try and rub some of the paint off the black, hoping the gesso would resist the paint and I could have some of that black come through. But in the end, I decided to just get out a very, what's the word I'm looking for? A very textured and, you know, not quite symmetric looking stencil. So I found this one. I need a bigger tub for all my stencils. I have so many stencils and I have them in a 12 by 12 tub, and I think it might actually be closer to 13 by 13 because everything fits in it really nicely. But I have all these stencils on the bottom that I adore and I just keep forgetting they're there, and I really need a bigger tub to store all my stencils in. But I remembered I had this one, and this was the one I originally went looking for before I started both of these pages because I wanted to use it, and I just kept getting diverted and distracted by all these other pretty stencils that I was finding. In the end, I finally get to use the stencil I originally was thinking of earlier in the day, and I've just applied some more black gesso through the stencil to give me some of those triangles. And just because I wanted something bold and black on this page on top of my background layer, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of black happening, but because I used the same stamp as the other page, I wanted a completely different look. So I wanted to make sure that my colors were different, my pattern was different, just so it didn't look the same. Now, you've seen my videos, or if you have seen my videos, you'll know that I tend to clean off my brushes and my stencils on the page next to the one I have, and if the colors and things are similar, I will try very hard to make the page look different even though I've used the same products, if that makes sense. So now I'm just going to outline some of those triangles with my white Gelly Roll pen, and that's where I've left this page. I didn't really know what else I wanted to do with it, so I thought I would stop while I was ahead, and that's where I've left it. So in the end, it was a really good art session. I come away with 2 pages that I really love. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and I will be back real soon with a new one. Bye for now.